What's up, Tailgaters? My name is Tailgate Nate. Welcome back to my channel. We're continuing another weekly series here on the channel, and that is power ranking. So, of course, we're going through the Power 5 conferences first, and I thought with news that's come out, this is kind of the perfect time to do the Big 12. We've already done the SEC, already done the Big 10. Today, we're doing the Big 12. Hey, thank you guys so much for tuning in. If you like Big 12 football, you like college football, you want to learn a little bit more about it. Now, I am no expert, just a big fan of the sport. Hey, you guys can leave a like on this video, push it out to more people. Subscribe to the channel if you are brand new. We're so close to 300. I would love it if we could get there before the season started. In fact, even tonight, maybe. But hey, please do that if you can. Also, share the video, and you can leave a comment down below. Power rankings are made for people to agree to disagree. So please leave your thoughts on the Big 12 teams down in the comment section below. Now, power rankings are made for people to agree to disagree, but I do think we can all agree on one thing, and that's the bottom team in the Big 12. Clearly, that is the Kansas Jayhawks, right? 0-9 last year, 64% returning production. Now, take those numbers with a grain of salt as they were before transfers and things like that. The numbers as of February 1st or in early February. I mean, where do I start with Kansas? 16 points a game while allowing 46, 260 yards a game while allowing 460. Like, that's just bad, man. Like, now I don't like to outright call a team out like this, but Kansas, you got to get better. When is Kansas going to get better? You guys can tell me. When do you think Kansas is going to get better? Leave your thoughts in the comment section below. If you remember 2007, yeah, as crazy as it sounds, they could have gone to a national title game if they hadn't have choked it away. Kansas could have been playing for a national title. Yeah, how crazy is that? But Kansas, to me, man, it just things have got to overall get better. And I don't see that happening next year, especially with the way the Big 12 is improving. I don't see it happening the year after. It starts with recruiting, right? As soon as they can get past the recruiting phase, then they can get into the playing better phase. But Kansas is a long way away. They got a lot of work to do there at number 10. Number 9 for me is the in-state rival, the Kansas State Wildcats. So you could do a lot of shuffling with the Big 12 because a lot of teams in the Big 12 are pretty close. At 9 here, I went with Kansas State. So 72% returning production. Last year, they were 4-6, so 4-5 in the conference. That's not bad. They did win some games, including an upset win over Oklahoma. But the defense for me, right? So let's talk about the offense for a little bit. They have Skylar Thompson coming back at quarterback. He's a solid player when he plays well. When he plays well, I think Skylar Thompson is a solid quarterback. I don't think he's anything spectacular, but he can be a solid quarterback. But Deuce Vaughn is the name you got to watch for on this Kansas State offense this year. He's going to be explosive in the run and the pass game, which leads me to the defense. The defense has got to get better for Kansas State, right? In a team like or in a conference like the Big 12, hey, defenses are only getting better in the Big 12, and that'll show this year with teams like Oklahoma, Iowa State, teams like that, TCU, West Virginia as well. And we'll talk about those teams here in a little bit. But Kansas State, the defense has got to get better. The offense can play solid. And if the offense can improve on the little things, get better at the little things, they can be a solid offense. But that defense has got to take some major steps forward before I can put Kansas State above 9. All right, number 8 is the Baylor Bears. Okay, so I've heard people tell me, and I'm not denying it, but I've heard people tell me that Baylor is underrated. Okay, I can see why Baylor's underrated. When you look at last year, 2-7, right? That's not great, especially after the season they had in 2019. 72% returning production and 59 on the offensive end. So that includes losses to the likes of John Lovett, Charlie Brewer, et cetera, et cetera. Now, I know last year was kind of weird. They had some coaching things go on with Baylor, some new coaching staff, some new players in there as well. But overall, it just wasn't a great season. Like, I think people knew Baylor was going to fall off, but I don't think people expected this to happen. Although 85% returning back on what was a pretty solid defense last year. Of course, there are things that they can improve on, of course, mainly stopping the run. Their run defense last year was not great. But that returning production, hey, means they're going to be more experienced. And I can see why people are going to say Baylor's underrated. I just think that replacing a quarterback, replacing a pretty darn good running back. I think John Lovett was pretty overlooked. Getting the coaching staff back in order, getting them rolling. Like, it's a hard thing to do all in 1 year. Those things in and of itself are kind of hard things to do. Once you put them all together, it becomes extremely hard. So they're going to have to find a new quarterback. We know how good Charlie Brewer can be. Of course, he's now transferred over to Utah. Running back wise, yeah, they got some guys back there, but no guy I like more than John Lovett, who of course transferred over to Penn State. We'll have to wait and see with Baylor, right? Baylor's one of those teams that you just got to kind of wait. The defense can be solid, but the offensive end worries me for the Baylor Bears. They can be solid if they play to their potential, but right now I have to put the Bears at number 8. I'm just not feeling them right now. Number 7 for me is the Texas Tech Red Raiders. So you can shuffle 9 through 7. Like if you want to put Kansas State at 7, Texas Tech at 9, Baylor at 7, 9, like do whatever you want. But to me, 9 through 7 is Kansas State, Baylor, and now Texas Tech. But I do like Texas Tech a little more because I have what they have coming, or I like what they have coming in and what they already have. So we're going to start off talking about Roderick Thompson. When you look rushing yards per game, hey, 162 rushing yards per game. That's okay, right? Like that's not a horrible number. I mean, it's not a great number either, but it's not a horrible number. Now, they are losing quite a bit on the offensive side, and it is going to hurt. But Roderick Thompson is a very underrated running back. I think he can be really good. Breece Hall was the Big 12 back that broke out last year. I don't think that's going to quite be Roderick Thompson, as I have some other picks, mainly Zach Evans from TCU. Mike Evans, of course, a wide receiver in the NFL. But no, for Texas Tech, I think this offense can play solid. They're bringing in Tyler Shuck to play quarterback. He was the starter over at Oregon last year. It's the defense, though, right? When you look, similar numbers as Kansas State, although they can defend the run a little bit better, or a little bit worse, excuse me. One of the two. But, I mean, they have very similar numbers as Kansas State on the defensive end. I do like their offense more, though. I think Tyler Shuck is a better quarterback than Skylar Thompson. I think Roderick Thompson is a better – well, he's not a better running back than Deuce Vaughn, but I mean, for obvious reasons, but quarterback position is going to make or break a team, right? I think if Tyler Shuck can come in, can start, can play well in place of Alan Bowman. Now, Alan Bowman had injury problems, everything like that. I think Texas Tech can surprise some people this year. I do like the Red Raiders this year. Might do a preview prediction video on them. Who knows? If you're a Red Raider fan, let me know if you want to do that, or if you want me to do that in the comment section below. But this team, of course, defensively has to get better, right? For me right now, they're at number 7. I like what they have coming in on the offensive side. Got to improve that defense, though. All right, number 6 for me is TCU. Okay, so 6 through 3 is also where things get tricky. But 6 right now for me is TCU. TCU for me is a team that I really like. But as you know, if you've watched all my Big 12 preview videos up to this point, you'll know I have 4 Big 12 teams going 8-4, and those are the 4 teams you're about to see right here. So it's hard, right? It's hard to figure out. 6-4 was their record last year. So again, a solid year. Hey, their defense was still solid as it has been in years past, but the offense has to get better, in my opinion. We know Max Duggan. He's shown flashes, right? He can be a really good quarterback. He's got to play like that. Zach Evans, the 5-star running back, or the former 5-star running back, he can come in and play really solid minutes as well. There are other running backs at TCU that can play well as well. Look at the rushing yards per game stat last year. The defense is losing some production, yes, but we all know what Gary Patterson is capable of, right? He usually has a solid defense that comes out, plays hard, but the offense has got to get better, and especially with the offensive weapons they have this year. I mean, hey, their wide receiver group is really good. I think they got to play J.D. Spielman in a bigger role, and I think TCU can be something really, really special. But the defense losing some at some positions. I don't think they're going to take a major step back, maybe a tiny one, if anything. They might even take a step forward from last year. Who knows? But TCU this year, it's a team that I like, and a team that I think if they play really, really well and they gel together, this can be one hell of a team. But TCU for me right now, number 6. All right, moving on to number 5 is West Virginia. Also went 6-4 last year with a 4-4 record in the Big 12, but because they are ahead of TCU, because of their defense last year. When you look, I mean, wow, 291.4 yards per game allowed last year. That's statistically one of the best defenses in the entire nation in terms of yardage. Scoring as well, only 20.5 points a game. And they're returning quite a bit on both sides, 81% overall, 82% on the offense, and 81% on defense. Now, of course, that's before transfers and everything. We know Tyke Smith transferring over to Georgia. That's a huge hit to the secondary. That was really good last year. In my opinion, though, in order for West Virginia to be that special team, now we know West Virginia was pretty good a couple years ago, of course, when Will Grier was at quarterback. And I like Jared Doge. I think he can be a solid option. I'm not like Jared Doge is solid. Right, he's a solid option. Not really a star caliber player. Not going to contend for the Heisman or anything, but he'll make the plays that he has to. For West Virginia, that offense just has to get into the end zone more, right? I mean, 26.5 points per game. That number is going to win you some games. And the offense was getting a lot of yards, over 400 yards a game. They just couldn't put the ball in the end zone. And if they can start doing that this year, they have Letty Brown at running back. They have some good weapons at wide receiver. There are weapons for West Virginia. If they can get the ball in the end zone, this is a dangerous team. West Virginia is at number 5. Oklahoma State for me is at number 4, and this one might turn some heads, but I do think Oklahoma State's going to be a lot better off this year than a lot of people think. Yes, Chuba Hubbard is leaving. Yes, Tylan Wallace is leaving. We know. Tevin Jenkins. Yes, we know. But Spencer Sanders coming back at quarterback. I think Sanders, when he plays well, is a great quarterback. And when you look at the offense last year, hey, that showed. Of course, they were running the ball a lot last year because with a guy like Chuba Hubbard, you're going to use them. Now, they got other guys back there, but the one I really like is LD Brown, and I've liked him for quite some years now. And then when you look at their defensive side, hey, that's solid numbers there on the defense, and they're returning 4/5 of that. So for me, Oklahoma State, I think is going to be a lot better off than some people think. Will they contend for the Big 12 this year, like a lot of people seem to think they were going to do last year? I think the jury's still out on that one. I think we got to kind of wait and see who starts in place for Hubbard, who starts in place for Wallace. How does the defense play this year? Now, the offense, of course, that's 65%, but of course, a lot of that is Hubbard, Wallace, other guys there as well. I think Oklahoma State's going to be fine this year. Of course, they got some things to work on. They've looked okay in spring and summer camp. And I think if they continue to improve on what they're doing in the offseason, they can have a pretty good 2021. So for me, the Cowboys are at number 4. Number 3 for me is Texas. Texas is a hard team to figure out, right? 61% returning production coming into this year. When you look at their offense last year, 41.3 points per game. Now, a lot of that had to do with Sam Ehlinger, Keontae Ingram, both of which are gone. Tariq Black also gone. So they're bringing in, or they're going to have to start a new quarterback. But of course, now Keontae Ingram gone. But now they have Bijan Robinson. And Bijan Robinson, I really like. Yes, he's kind of a risky pick. He's like a hit or miss guy. But if he played like he did in the Alamo Bowl last year, in the last couple of games, especially in the Alamo Bowl, Texas is going to be a hard offense to stop, especially with a great offensive mind like Steve Sarkisian coming in at head coach. It is that defense. Again, like a lot of stories, or like a lot of teams in the Big 12, right? It is that defense that's got to get better. Now, the defense, still a solid defense, and their offense, I think, is going to be good enough this year, no matter who starts a quarterback, to score them points. But the defense has got to come up with some big stops this year. They got a lot of interesting games. Of course, they got to play Louisiana and Arkansas in non-conference. I think both those games could be really tricky for Texas. Then they have to go through the gauntlet of the Big 12, already playing Oklahoma and Iowa State. Got to play West Virginia, TCU, or Oklahoma State. Those teams are going to be solid this year. The reason I have Texas at number 3 is because I do like them a little bit more than what TCU, West Virginia, and Oklahoma State have. Now, TCU, West Virginia, I think if they can get everything gelled together, then those are going to be good teams. Same with Oklahoma State. Texas, we know what they can be if they gel together. We saw it last year. We've seen it in the past couple of years. Granted, it hasn't been up to the biggest of expectations, but it's still been solid. Texas, for me, is going to be an interesting one to watch. Right now, they're at number 3, but if you want to put them lower, not going to argue with you. All right, but we all know who the top 2 teams in the Big 12 are, right? The Iowa State Cyclones are number 2, which means you know who's at number 1. I think you knew before you clicked on this video. 9-3 for the Cyclones last year. They were first in the Big 12 in standings, of course, after beating the Sooners in the regular season, but coming up just short in the Big 12 championship game. Hey, 88% returning production. That is one of the top in the nation, especially that offensive returning production, right? 94%. Woo. I mean, that includes Purdy. He's due for a bounce back season, in my opinion. That includes Breece Hall, leading rusher in the nation last year, which I called. That includes the best group of tight ends in the nation, Chase Allen, Charlie Kohler. Includes some wide receivers like Xavier Hutchinson. And then on the defensive side, you're returning 81%. That's not a bad number either. As a defense that was much improved last year with reigning Big 12 Defensive Player of the Year, Mike Rose, at the linebacking position, along with some other guys. The defensive line should be solid. Cornerbacks can be solid as well. The thing with Iowa State's always been, right? The wide receivers step up and play. And I think this year, especially with Brock Purdy going to be due for a special season, I believe, I think Iowa State going to have a very explosive offense this year, even more explosive than they were last year, especially in the points category. The defense, I think, is going to continue to improve. This is going to be a good team in 2021. Make no mistake about it. They're at number 2. But, of course, the number 1 team in the Big 12 is Oklahoma. I mean, where do I start with this team? One of the best offenses in the nation last year and improving defense, and it could be one of the best in the nation this upcoming year. I mean, Oklahoma's looked like one of the best teams in spring and summer, like, period. They're definitely in contention with Bama, Clemson, Georgia, Ohio State for that number 1 spot. In fact, they're ahead of most of those teams. They're my number 2 behind Alabama because Bama still looks like Bama. Bryce Young looks really good. They got a lot of 5-star backs back there. You know, I could talk about how good Bama looks all day, but I could do the same thing with Oklahoma. Last year was kind of it started off like a train wreck, right? 1 and 2. Oh, Oklahoma, you know, the quarterback's not that good. And then Spencer Rattler shut off. And now he's a Heisman on the Heisman list this year and could possibly win it. Of course, I have Sam Howell winning the Heisman. But for Oklahoma, this is going to be their best team yet. And this is going to be the best shot that Lincoln Riley's had to win a playoff game. Can they do it in 2021? That is going to do it for Big 12 Power Rankings. We're going to leave it on Oklahoma here. Again, these videos are made for us to agree to disagree. 7 through 9, I think you can shuffle, and 3 through 6, I think you can shuffle. But the top 2 and the bottom, I think, are definite. Hey, let me know what you guys think about the Big 12 in the comment section below. Please like, subscribe, share the video as well. Remember to play hard, but tailgate harder. Now, tomorrow we're back to schedule preview predictions. I'm going to upload a team that I think not a lot of people are talking about this year, and that's the Nevada Wolfpack. So we're going to look at our first team from the Mountain West tomorrow. Goodbye.